Thanks for staying with us. Time now for Across Africa, our weekly look at stories from across the continent. I'm Georja Calvin-Smith, and this week, a year on since a dam collapse caused devastating flooding that swept away thousands of lives and wiped out about a quarter of the Libyan city of Derna, the race to rebuild continues. Also, South Africa's culture ministry is hoping that spinning can drive the motorsports sector forward. The once banned pastime involves skillfully skidding cars in circles at dizzying speeds. And worth the cost of a pricey ticket, Madagascar's pristine waters make it one of the best kitesurfing spots in the world, and locals want more fans of the sport to know it. But first, it's been a year since deadly floods overwhelmed the eastern Libyan city of Derna. Thousands died, many more are still missing, and the city is still coming to terms with the devastation. Belgesem Haftar, the son of General Khalifa Haftar, who runs that part of the city, is overseeing the race to rebuild. Results have so far been mixed, as our team found out.
The sounds of building have echoed throughout the eastern Libyan city of Derna for months now, the result of 155 reconstruction projects financed by a special €1.9 billion fund. Derna was devastated by floods on September 11, 2023, but restoration has made progress and reconstruction of landmarks like the Al Sahaba Mosque is almost complete.
We are trying to ensure that it is rebuilt as new while preserving its authenticity. The urgency lies in the fact that it is very important that the people of Derna find their place of prayer.
There are some concerns about the lack of transparency over how reconstruction contracts have been awarded. Authorities want results and fast. Housing is a priority. 2,000 apartments have been built for victims deemed to be most in need. Others can apply for financial aid to repair their homes. This woman, still overwhelmed by uncertainty, didn't want to share her name, but said that she and her son received about €10,000 in help.
The money allowed me to redo the floor and doors a little, that's all. It was really chaos when I got home. Halel, my son, was there during the flood. He called me to tell me that he was on the roof, that nothing was working, that the car was underwater. Today, luckily, things are starting to get better.
Some have blamed politicians and military officials for the disaster. An official inquiry still has not been launched. NGOs are trying to care for the displaced, and the dead are still being counted.
We are still finding bodies. During construction, some were uncovered as the debris was cleared. We hand over the remains each time to the agency searching for the missing so that it can identify them.
4,500 people were killed in the flooding. Unidentified victims have been assigned numbers in the hope that DNA tests can perhaps someday offer closure to grieving families.
Now, not being able to read can stop people in literate societies from having access to opportunities that others may take for granted. In Côte d'Ivoire, only about 13% of women can't read, many of them in rural areas. One group of teachers is trying to close the gap. Our correspondents report.
There are no classrooms here, but there is learning. Paul Marie moves between the stalls to help these traders to read, write, and count. This method is based on a mobile phone application called Alphatic.
On vous apprend à calculer avec la calculatrice et puis à la fin on vous donne le portable. Là, ça y est, avec vous, vous allez vous-même travailler, calculer avec. Et ici, c'est...
Since 2017, UNESCO has trained some 2,500 women under this program.
When you go to buy in bulk, you have to calculate the price. You're told that it's such and such a number and you have to work out the total so you can then make the payments. If you don't know how to calculate, you have to ask someone to do it for you.
UNESCO says 90% of children whose mothers can read and write will also be able to read and write. Charlotte, who has completed the training, hopes that this new skill will be useful for her daughter too.
As it's the end of the holidays, every morning when I go out, I give her exercises to do, to learn to read and write. It's very important to me. It's very, very important. It's what motivated me the most to follow the courses.
In Ivory Coast, 47% of the population is illiterate. 2/3 of this number is made up of women.
La Côte d'Ivoire a une forte population en milieu rural.
Ivory Coast has a large rural population, so access to education can be difficult because there aren't enough local schools, and there's a lack of qualified instructors. That's to say, a lack of teachers who have specialized training in literacy.
Une vraie formation en alphabétisation manque.
To address these challenges, the Ivorian authorities have allocated a fund to promote literacy and have recently dedicated a ministry to the issue.
While people in Lagos spend an average of 30 hours in traffic every week, congestion is an unwelcome part of life in the vibrant city. But where there's a will, there's a way, and that way is sometimes the waterways. Clem Vella tells us more.
What was once often a 3-hour nightmare drive to work with a pre-dawn start and dense traffic has become a half-hour sprint across the waters of the Lagos Lagoon by boat. For Ivy Junaid, who works on one of the islands off the coast, the ferry has changed her life.
You actually get out of bed when you need to. You have breakfast at home, strut in here, strut into the boat, and 30 minutes across the water, you're on the other side. It's way easier.
Flanked by the lagoon and the Atlantic Ocean, Lagos has long used its waterways as an alternative to the megacity's chaotic roads. However, with over 21 million inhabitants, the city is set to become the world's largest by the end of the century. Hence the urgent need to adapt the river traffic. Over the next 3 years, a project partially funded by France and the EU aims to develop 15 ferry routes as well as upgrade the jetty system and the dredge routes.
The State Ministry of Transportation is now developing very actively the rail and the water transportation services. We believe very strongly that this will boost the current percentage of water transportation from about 2% to almost about 10%.
For experts, the Lagos government will have to take important measures in order to make the water traffic environmentally and financially sustainable. Nigeria is currently facing its worst cost of living crisis in decades, with inflation at more than 30% and fuel costs tripling over the last 18 months.
Well, South Africa's new Minister of Sport and Culture wants to literally fast-track his sector's development. The loud, exhilarating, dangerous, flamboyant motorsport of spinning is in line to be taken up again. Originally born in poorer townships in the country, the scene is set to go mainstream. Our team has more.
It's called spinning. The drivers look like stuntmen. Spinning started during apartheid when gang members would spin tires to honor fallen members. But nowadays it has become a family-friendly sport. For this motor enthusiast who organizes competitions across the country, it's time to make the sport professional.
It's been growing and just been snowballing so fast. We would like to see more corporates get involved to back, because the sport does cost a bit of money. You're using actual vehicles that you need to build, like any race car, any race competition.
Amateurs believe that legalizing these competitions will enable them to help vulnerable young people.
This is something that we were supposed to do years ago. At least our kids will now be off drugs and off the street and busy with drag racing.
And there'll be so much for the youth to look up to, so much for the youth to do.
Spinners are gaining traction on social networks. The French TV network Canal Plus even came to South Africa to make a series about them. The new Minister for Sport and Culture, who himself has a past as a gang member, said he was proud to see the international spotlight on a South African sport.
I'm going to make it a national sport. We've already budgeted money for it. The federations has already been registered. It's going to be one of our exports. Thank you.
According to the minister, this motorsport will be officially recognized before the end of the year.
Well, Madagascar's pristine waters make it one of the best kite surfing spots in the world. And locals want more fans of the sport to know it. Seaside communities are banking on the promotion of their water sports credentials to boost the local economy. Our Gael Borja went along to take a look.
Sakalava Bay has everything a kite surfer could dream of. Winds that average 25 knots almost all year round, beautiful reef breaks and a flat, shallow lagoon. Despite these uniquely perfect conditions, the site is little known among practitioners of the sport. Today, two of kitesurfing's biggest stars have been invited to promote Sakalava Bay in a bid to draw more visitors.
I would compare Sakalava Bay to Brazil or Hawaii or Gran Canaria, and I think it's also almost better than those world-class spots. It's amazing here. You've got flat water and beautiful waves, wind every day, so definitely one of my top.
There are just a few hundred kite surfers who take to the waves here each year, most of whom are residents. Better-known destinations like Brazil attract some 320,000 kite surfers annually. Despite this, the 20-odd kite surfing schools in the bay have proved a valuable source of income and inspiration for the local village.
My aim is to represent Madagascar in international competitions. We watch videos of champions like Stig Hofnagel, Kohan van Dijk and Jamie Overbeek. We improve by imitating their style.
Madagascar won't be sending kite surfers to the Olympics anytime soon. Its national federation doesn't even organize competitions. In 2022, 3 Malagasy instructors took it upon themselves to create the country's first annual kitesurf contest in a bid to drive up tourism. But they hit a major obstacle, the price of plane tickets.
When people see that getting here costs 2,000 euros while going to Morocco costs 300 or 400 euros, of course they go to Morocco. We would be able to improve things if the plane tickets were less expensive.
A 10-hour training course here costs some 2,500 euros per person, including flights from Paris and accommodation. For some kitesurfers, the perfect conditions and chance to kitesurf in a lagoon with no one else around is well worth the price.
Well, that's it for Across Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, though. Do so again if you can. Till then, take care.